Now, the African Youth Parliament has called to address the pressing issues facing African countries and implementation of African Union's agenda to foster more development. The Youth Model Africa Union Summit yesterday in Abuja saw members from 55 states of African Union advocating for increased funding in education sector, election violence, women development, and others. Benedict Uku has more.
At the second extraordinary summit of the Youth Model African Union today in Abuja, African Youth Parliament, which has members from 55 states of the African Union, called to address the challenges the African leaders faced. The convener, Igwechi Augustine, called for the increase in funding in the education sector and implementation of the African Union's agenda to foster more development in Africa.
We are focusing on fostering the implementation of African Union agenda and the African Continental Free Trade Area. So African Union Agenda 2063, which has 7 aspirations. So they should look at the 7 aspirations, and most importantly, the African Continental Free Trade Area, which allow free movement of goods and services within the African nation. They should put up a strong resolution, recommendations that we can be able to take to the African Union for implementation that will help for African development. UNESCO has a benchmark for education. But if you look at it, Nigeria over the years has been budgeting below the UNESCO standard. So Nigeria budget in education is always between 5 to 7% of the total budget. But when you look at the UNESCO standard of education, it's actually between 15 and 20%. The recommended budgeting allocation that should go to education to enable robust and transformative education in Nigeria and Africa.
The gathering of youths from different African countries also saw more deliberations on women involvement in leadership and politics, African Continental Free Trade Area, and others.
When you talk about the African leaders' contribution towards the development of young girls in Africa, I would say it's not enough. We need more people. We need the men to speak for the women. The women have a voice, but the voice is not loud enough because of the various challenges. I call them facing the giants. There are a lot of giants in Africa. And part of it is actually in the area of education, lack of education. And if you give a woman education, give anyone education, you give them some level, some degree of power, because education is actually power.
You see, the Lord, through his infinite mercy, has made a woman special, be it biblically or Quranic wise. As far as woman is concerned, her education is very, very important. And that wrong impression of northern Nigerian women are not educated, I'm telling you, you are telling yourself lies. They are educated, they are civilized, and they are doing it to the best of our knowledge.
Some of the participants from the different countries shared their expectations as they await resolutions at the end of the summit.
We also have challenges, and these challenges might be the proper implementation of laws, because we have certain laws in the country, but then we still feel there is a need to properly implement the laws that we have as a country.
Doing that here is giving young Africans the opportunity to share their ideas and to also share what they think can be done to solve the prevalent problems in Africa. And so this summit is an opportunity for young people to represent other countries, both country of their origin or country of delegation, where they get to look at the topical issues that are problems in these different countries and be able to share their own ideas.
The summit is aimed at exposing participants to the workings of the African Union and positioning them on a career path as diplomats and transformational leaders.